Sorry. Without technology, like lost.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are live.
Great, thank you. So today is April 21st, 2021, and the time is 5:05 p.m. and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council special virtual meeting. City Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Damian?
Here.
Councilmember Garcia?
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Avila?
Here.
And Mayor Estrada?
Here. Thank you for that, City Clerk. Is there any public communications?
No, Mayor.
Great. So at this point, I will move forward from public communications, and I believe we have a study session and a presentation from Baldwin Park Distribution and Device Distribution LLC.
Would you like me to just get started?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight. You have myself, Tony Kim. I'm the CEO of Stacks, which is a 100% subsidiary owned by a company called Ease. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, so I'll just go over some high level on who we are and then get into the presentation. Ease was actually founded sometime 2014, good 6-7 years back. And has evolved since. Back then it was definitely a different atmosphere in the cannabis world, but now it's we're 7-8 years into this now. We represent about 900 plus employees. I think we're nearing closer to 1,000 now, and the largest cannabis employer in the state. So just to kind of delineate, Ease is the tech company that came out, developed a marketplace platform. Stacks is the cannabis entity that was actually started a little over a year ago to augment and to create the vertical aspect of the company into cannabis. We have done over 7 million deliveries to date and have a user base of about 850,000 plus customers. And in the total combined sales of all of cannabis in California, we represent about 10% of that total sales. So, well-versed and experienced in the cannabis front. We have about 14 depots that are located throughout the state in every major city, spanning from Sacramento all the way down to Sacramento. The basic structure is, the previous model was that these distributors, retailers would license the tech platform from Ease. As of last year, with the creation of Stacks, we have gone to more of a vertical strategy where Stacks now operates the cannabis division, as I mentioned, as well as from anything that goes from the brands on the menu to the delivery depots and logistics and distribution of such. And so over the course of the last couple of years, we've gone and acquired our actual partners and now represent the actual, seed to sale model throughout California. Due to our size, and our compliance components to this, as we started becoming actually owner operated, compliance first for us. We have probably, obviously a biased statement, but I'd say we have the top compliance team in the state, made up of lawyers as well as compliance specialists that are very well versed, not only at the state level, but municipality to municipality. Because of our presence and the size of our company, we have an impact on our communities and municipalities that we operate in. And so it's been a very, very big pillar of ours to be participants and active in the social equity programs, as well as having a positive influence on the community around us. So one example of such is our Ease Momentum program. I'll let Rashad, who will go into later detail in the presentation about such, but it's a program basically to help kickstart a lot of the social equity partners that we have on the menu, as well as supply chain partners. Furthermore, understanding our local engagement has an impact, and so we have been active and made it a additional pillar of ours to get into the actual local, what's important to the local municipality and local communities around us that we are operating in, with things such as supporter, like patient rights, workforce development programs, definitely local hiring, and really just having organic positive growth of the cannabis components within those sectors. So move over into the team component to this. A little background about myself. Prior to coming over to cannabis about 4 or 5 years ago, I spent a good portion of my life, about 18 years, in the fashion industry, doing exactly what I'm doing in the cannabis side, which is developing supply chains and developing private label business for companies like Macy's and Nordstrom's. So pretty well versed in this aspect, both in whether it's in cannabis or fashion. There's a lot of similarities, but as Ease went and committed to the verticalization strategy, they brought me over as the CEO to help build this out and really develop this aspect of the business. We've partnered with Sean Seisman. He is the head of Device Distribution, a local Baldwin Park resident and operator with, decades of actual cannabis experience. So, our spirit of working collectively with the with local members of the community, that we partnered up with Sean to help develop this opportunity. As I mentioned, our compliance team is second to none, as well as a very well-rounded team of government and community affairs members. So we spend a good amount of our allocation to these components of it, and it's we realize the importance of all these aspects as we start developing this very nascent industry. The project at hand. We were very interested in establishing our core distribution facility in the city of Baldwin Park. This is a state type 11 license type. We've identified the property and have already committed to such, located at 14030 Live Oak. What we plan on doing there is traditional distribution in the sense of as I mentioned, we have 14 delivery retail depots throughout the state, and we're looking to put in our centralized distribution center in Baldwin Park, as well as co-packing product storage components. We forecast about at scale, maybe about a year into it, that we will scale the employee head count up to about 50 plus, and the proposed kind of community fee, the licensing fee, as we've been participating in some of your city council meetings as an annual fee there. Step two in this, we've had early conversations about the possibility of setting up a delivery facility here in Baldwin Park as well, but understanding that this is the next kind of phase and contemplation from the city council perspective. So I'll put a pinhold on that. And just to give you guys a little bit of kind of background, a map here where our proposed distribution facility is. We've secured the property back in September of 2020. We did go ahead and apply for the city application in March, and subsequently filed the state application a couple of weeks ago in April. So this is a picture of the building. It is a beautiful facility that came pretty turnkey to our liking. Just kind of a little bit of a macro approach. Currently, with our 14 different retailers throughout the state, we are serviced by 20 plus different distributors, each really more on the discretion of the brands themselves. And they deliver to all 14 different locations. So the hub and spoke model that I developed in the fashion industry, using that same model to create a similar infrastructure in the city of Baldwin Park, what was traditionally known as hub and spoke, meaning all the brands would deliver to our centralized location. We would process this, onboard it, and then distribute back out to within our own network. This allows for a lot of efficiencies as well as control over such. like I said, there's a lot of different distributors, and we don't necessarily have control over them. We implement SOPs, but that's their business. What this would ultimately achieve is not only a more efficient inventory management component to this, but also allow us, to ensure that we adhere to quality, safety protocols, compliance standards, and allowing our centralized intake, as well as inspection, packaging, and transportations of all our products to our own network. By centralizing our inventory, we're able to increase all of our efficiencies and reduce the headcount and the staffing at the retail side, and bring it all into the central distribution, where, again, it's just easier to manage, but has benefits from the labor standpoint in Baldwin Park. As I mentioned, we've identified the facility, started to actually pay rent on that since we did back in October. We've invested quite a bit into setting up the proper utilities, security alarms, construction maintenance, basic TIs. We're holding and pausing as a result of these conversations until we have clear visibility on the license, but we'll go into the caging, the ingress egress components, all it, the security system, and we brought on Mr. Andy Cerrone, who will talk about the security components later on in the presentation. In addition, in the spirit of our partnership with local Baldwin Park community, the partnership that we have with Sean is allocating 5,500 square feet of the space for him to operate his business. And so a lot of mutual benefits in doing so. So again, just another example of our commitment to partner and work with the existing community. Just to give you an overview, and just kind of alluded to a couple of these points, as you can see on the left here, this is where all our depots are located throughout the state. And our ultimate objective is to eventually scale this, really an arm of our infrastructure, to centralize the logistics component of getting the brands to actual retailers. Baldwin Park is strategically perfect for us, in the sense of most of our operational components staff is located in SoCal, but we have 6, 7 now different depots up north. So really it will be centralizing the transportation components and logistics of SoCal, and then moving product up to the NorCal territories, and then back down again. We've broken this down in 3 different phases that are also correlated with programs that we intend to hopefully run in conjunction with the city, that have positive community impacts. I'll pass it over here right now to introduce Mr. Cerrone, Andy. He is our head of security, and I'll let him kind of tell a little bit about himself and his background and his expertise.
Thanks, Tony. I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to present along with my CEO today, and Rashad. Obviously, we're all real excited about the Baldwin Park opportunity. Don't want to get too deep into my background. Talking about myself is not one of my strong suits. But I've been doing this for about 2 decades, and in different verticals. So I started in military and the law enforcement and transitioned to the corporate world, and been doing this for a couple different companies now. I've been primarily in highly regulated industries prior to this, with data centers, Google and Amazon. So very first foray into cannabis, interesting vertical for me. And Ease and Stacks specifically brought me on at the beginning of this year with the investment that they're putting into security, right? So it's one of the big pillars for 2021, 2022, and moving forward is increasing our security footprint all over. So the facility, in Baldwin Park, so we have planned top to bottom, full out security there in every aspect. So we will have 24-hour on-site guards. We have a robust interior and exterior CCTV program. The state requires 720 by 1280, which is essentially a 1.3 megapixel camera. The lowest megapixels that we use on site are 3, with the majority being 5, or even I believe we have 11 interior 16 megapixel cameras. So couple that with our on-site central station monitored burglar alarm system. use a local company, MyJack Alarm, to install that, monitor that, and then also to install the rest of our security as well. On top of that, we have an access control system. The manufacturer is Brevo. And then we're able to assign, it's just like any of the office buildings you've been in that have badge readers, we're able to assign different access to different personnel dependent on their role. On top of that, we use Envoy as our visitor management system, robust system that allows us to be BCC compliant and also manage who is on site and keep logs for the required time. So the last piece is kind of our creme de la creme. So one of the big initiatives that I brought with me here that has seen great support internally is looking as we scale and looking as we grow our security footprint, the ability to self-monitor, the ability to have our own SOC, so a SOC, so a Security Operations Center. This is going to be the hub of our distribution, and it's the largest facility we have. It's going to be the hub of our security as well. So it's going to be a 24-hour staffed operations control center with highly trained operators. They'll be monitoring all of our alarms enterprise-wide, all of our cameras, and all of our access control 24/7. They integrate with our business continuity program and our emergency management program. It gives us a really great footprint when looking for alarms. We get instant notification. And it's a great difference for us between a third-party alarm monitor company sending, calling law enforcement and saying, hey, we have a door alarm here, versus the ability for us to actually call law enforcement and say, hey, we actually have a burglary going on. Here's the description of the individual. It's active right now. Can you respond? So thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Andy. Next, and understanding that traffic impact is going to be a critical part to your decision making here. I put some pictures down. Our team has done some traffic studies. We are, all things considered, there's a relatively small number of deliveries expected going in and out of the facility at any given time. We have our own parking lot, and the entrance is on Live Oak. So we don't anticipate any local traffic circulation being negatively impacted by the operations of such. We will only be delivering to our own network, so it's only 14 retailers, and expect probably around 4 to 6 deliveries on any given business day from brands coming in, and 4 trucks going out maybe twice a week, outbound to our own retail channels. So and that's really at full scale in Q1. So we've mapped out our efficiencies and our schedule and cadence of these trucks going in and out. And because it's centralized, that we don't see this as being a very high traffic operation. For deliveries to the facilities, we have 20 parking spots in a gated lot that will constantly be monitored and have its own security of vehicles coming in and out, obviously. And what we've done here is put a little picture. We took a screenshot of a Google Net traffic report at 8:30 in the morning on a basic workday. And as you can see, it's pretty much green light going through Live Oak. Our property that we've secured, if you look at the picture on the right, is the one on the bottom that's kind of that beige highlight. The entrance is on Live Oak, so there's no reason for any of our trucks to go anywhere beyond that. There's no ingress egress on Stewart Street or the street to, I believe it's to the north there. Outside, pretty much all our trucks will be coming in and out of that parking lot. And the parking lot that our secured dedicated spot is that section to the right of the facility. That actually has a gate there with the 20 spots. So there won't be any ingress egress outside of the trucks coming in from Live Oak going straight into that dedicated parking area. As well, and then on top of the traffic impact, our neighborhood impact, we don't see any with our activity there, any circulation issues with emergency access. There, as I mentioned, there's no rhyme or reason why any of our trucks and vans would be on any other street besides Live Oak. And so taking into consideration the street width and sidewalk provisions and available parking and traffic peak times, we don't see ourselves having any impact really, or a very minor one on the neighborhood. As mentioned, we have our own gated parking, which ensures that cannabis products will never be visible to the public during loading or unloading. It goes in through that secure parking area and then through our own loading docks into the building. So cannabis products will never be exposed to the public. Mentioned our partnership with Sean, local Baldwin Park resident. And the last component to this, the facilities of the operation. In summary, we don't see the facility of operations presenting any negative impacts, but taking that one step furthermore, Ease and Stacks is always created and believed in having a positive impact through different community programs and initiatives. I'd like to, at this point, introduce Rashad Johnson to talk about some of the programs that we've run before and we intend to initiate in the city of Baldwin Park.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it. I think take a step back. I think Ease and Stacks approach all communities kind of like, if we're going to be doing business, we'd like to see how we can best serve and best cultivate the correct pipelines to make sure that not only, we're doing good business, but we're also facilitating job opportunities and relationships with the existing communities. From our perspective, Ease has done a lot in relations to social equity in terms of providing and identifying small business operators from impacted communities who want to be in the space. And so up to date, we have given over $1 million and given folks, I would say, hundreds of hours of kind of support from our corporate entities, making sure their accounting and all things relative to running a business and being sustainable are provided for them. I think, we understand we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of folks who've been negatively impacted by the war on drugs, but more importantly, when it comes to communities, we like to approach it from a holistic private-public partnership. As you guys know, the cannabis industry is growing rapidly in the state, and a lot of folks from communities in and around Los Angeles want to get into it. And we think that we're a great bridge builder in terms of identifying folks and helping them get into the space where they understand the industry and can go out on their own and be sustainable business owners. I think we're more than open for apprenticeship programs. Again, I think we would love to work hand in hand with the city to identify efforts you guys are doing for workforce development and kind of connect those dots for you guys, but also from a mentorship program. I think, kids coming out of high school have not traditionally thought about cannabis as a way to get, or cannabis as an industry to get into, but as that develops more and more, I think Ease and Stacks are more than willing to support and mentor folks who want to get into the space, not to mention kind of cultivate a sense of community around the existing operators in the city currently. I think Baldwin Park, is obviously a strong community, but more importantly, I think it's an opportunity for all vendors and cannabis businesses alike to work together to make sure that not only they're making the best imprint in Southern California, but hopefully some of those products and brands can reach out to Northern California and, bring some of that, those winnings back to the city. And so I close in saying that Ease is more than willing to support and work with the city to make sure that we have a diverse, inclusive cannabis industry, and also want to make sure that we're a shining star for future businesses who plan on coming.
Thanks, Rashad. You do have one more slide.
Oh, fantastic. As you guys know, cannabis currently and unfortunately still has, some negative stigmas. And I think the best way for us to do that, to kind of, mitigate those stigmas, is to do, positive outreach, let folks understand how safe and compliant we are as an operator. But more importantly, to expose to the community some of the great efforts that we're doing in terms of supporting patients, veterans, those who are shut in, those who don't have access to cannabis in their local communities, and really trying to build the bridge that doesn't say, hey, we just want to sell you weed, but we also want to kind of push forward the issues that you see in your community that need more attention or need more advocacy. Of course, we advocate for business sustainability and business operation, but we also advocate for greater good. And I think as cannabis is in a position as an industry to really support not just sales of cannabis, but also some of the social issues that we see surrounding kind of cannabis and criminalization. And so from our perspective, we hope as best we can to not only reverse those stigmas, but to provide people with opportunities to thrive in the space and further some of the positive perspectives that cannabis can provide to communities.
Great. Appreciate that, Rashad. And just to kind of touch on this, to what Rashad's point, we're a very large company that, does a large amount of volume in the cannabis space. And so we understand fully that there's a lot of responsibility on ourselves to be good operators and players in the space. And so where we go and penetrate into a new market or territory, to Rashad's point, we're very committed on having a positive organic growth, not only for our company directly, but as well as to the supply chain, our partnerships, to the community, to everything in that ecosystem around us. We realize that we do have an impact on that and take that responsibility seriously. So in closing, tried to keep this short and sweet, understanding your precious time here. But partnering with eStacks is, we strongly believe is a significant catalyst to the growth of Baldwin Park's cannabis industry. As we build, we like to build around us. It is critical in a very nascent industry that we have strong partners, and so we help facilitate that growth and development of our supply chain partners, our brand partners, as well as our the municipalities that we operate within. Between taxes, fee revenues paid to the city, as well as the job opportunities that we create, we believe that we are a substantial ancillary benefit to all local businesses. And we feel like this is a great opportunity, a win-win situation for Baldwin Park as you guys really take the cannabis component to the next level. And again, in final notes, we are extremely committed to our relationship with the city of Baldwin Park and like to ensure that we have a positive impact on all fronts. In summary, we humbly request that the council expeditiously, hopefully, and that's quote unquote, but considering subsequently award Stacks a distribution license. And in the future, we'd love to have the further conversation about non-storefront delivery license as well. That's it for the presentation. Leave it open for any questions that you guys might have for either one of us. And thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
thank you. Well, Tony and the team, thank you for that presentation. It was very thorough and informative, and I really appreciated that you touched on different components and the different value add, I guess, that you'll bring if you are approved in our community as a distributor. Workforce development, I love that. And the security is so important. So you guys have been very thoughtful about that. The site itself seems like it is ideal, if you ask me, because it's right off of a major thoroughfare and very close to the 605.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. Will have minimal impact to our neighborhoods. I did have some questions about the flow of the product. So, and you mentioned some words like co-packaging or co-packing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to understand. So tell me if I understand this correctly. You have 14 depots or clients that will deliver product to this site, that's this proposed site, and we could get vehicles from those 14. Did I understand about maybe 4 or 5 vehicles per day? And
Yeah.
then
Go ahead.
And then the product is processed on site and then delivered about 3 times a week. Did I understand that correctly?
Almost.
Okay.
So we actually have 14 non-storefront delivery depots throughout the state. Those are within our own, we are on the license of those 14. We work with about 50 to 75 different brands that are on the menu that will eventually be on the, the virtual marketplace shelf at those 14 different locations. So those brands will be delivering to the Baldwin Park facility, and about twice a week, we would have our vans going from our centralized facility to those 14 retail stores.
Okay.
Okay. And the second part of your question, yes, we also do private label. Like, we also have our own brands. So the co-packing component to this is where we will be sourcing the different bill of materials that are required for the final end product. And the distribution license from a state on the state level is that, we're allowed to package. So we're not allowed to alter the state of that good, that product, but we can package it into final packaging and then treat it like a finished product that will go through the basic regimen that I described earlier to our 14 retail channels.
Are there any odors that come from that process?
Yeah, the quantity of such, it's maybe about 20% of our menu. We have the building itself came with a pretty a comprehensive HVAC system and odor components, but that's definitely something that we have, we're mindful of. So the ventilation system in the facility will be customized so that there won't be any odor going outside of the building.
Okay. So some of the processing of the product will require that ventilation system and mitigation to the neighborhood. Okay. And as far as the number of depots, do you expect that will grow?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We hope so. That is definitely the intent. Just to give you a little context, we also just launched in Michigan, and we're putting some groundworks down in Colorado and Florida. We're hoping to launch those by the end of the year. But in California alone, yes, we've gone from, I think it was 12 to like 15 in the last 3 months or so. So there's a couple new delivery depots that we're looking for. Ultimately, we would like to cover the entire state in the most efficient way. And so we do a lot of studies and analytics on what's the most efficient locations to have retail depots. San Gabriel Valley is definitely one of those spaces that we would love to put a retail store on. And when I say retail store, this is just to make sure this is non-storefront delivery. So there's no actual foot traffic. These are just delivery depot hubs that our drivers go out and facilitate direct-to-consumer orders.
Okay, so that leads to my next question of the vehicles that will be coming in and out of the site. And like I said, I think the site really does lend itself to traffic and circulation, ingress, egress, proximity to the freeway. So I think all of that is good. And my question is, the vehicles that will be coming in and out, can you tell me what they look like as far as the size?
Yeah, and Councilman Garcia, just to be absolutely clear, this facility that we're looking at right now is purely for our distribution center. It is not the actual facility that goes direct to consumer. So the description of the vehicles are these Sprinter vans and box trucks. So what you traditionally would think about when you're talking about like a freight, the Sprinter vans are, how do I describe a Sprinter van? Just kind of like your white van that are
Is it
specially
kind of like
customized.
the Amazon delivery scale?
Yes, that's perfect. Okay. It's like those Amazon vans that you see.
Okay.
We do not have signage on these vans, and there's compliance rules from the BCC of the security, the tracking, those components to that. So yeah, that's the extent of the actual vehicles that will be coming in and out of the distribution facility.
Okay, and so your vehicles are also those Sprinter vans?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And then just one more question that I have on the vehicles is the security. Do those have security? Do yours, as they go out to the 14 depots?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, these vans are, again, there's compliance rules and regulations around what needs to be on these vans. There's now a whole sector now that's customizing these vans to meet those compliance regulations. So they are basically like little armored vehicles that are going around. And again, there's tracking and protocols around these vans on the where these vans are allowed to go and how they're supposed to be ingressing and onboarding and offboarding at cannabis license facilities.
Okay. And then finally, I've seen your billboard off the 10 freeway near, like, let's say Los Angeles Avenue or Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks good. Do you guys have a facility in that area?
No,
Yeah.
no, we do not. So currently, this is definitely a space that we'd like to address. We do have facilities on the eastern side of Los Angeles Greater. So our delivery, and this is on the depot side. So the drivers on the depot sides are making trips out there. Obviously, it's not the most efficient place. The distance that these drivers have to travel to service SGV is not efficient for us, but we'd like to service the area. So having a non-stop for delivery somewhere in Baldwin Park would be an ideal location for us.
Well, thank you for that information. And like I said, I think that the location, excuse me, is ideal. And if you can ensure that no odors will reach those neighborhoods, especially being that you're closer to the neighborhoods than I think than what we allow. But you would have my support if you could just ensure that that odor is mitigated so that it doesn't impact the residential neighborhoods.
Absolutely. We can present kind of the odor mitigation plan to you down the road. But like I said, the quantity of actually unpacked flour is going to be nominal. So, we don't foresee it. It's a 45,000 square foot facility with very thick walls. And as I mentioned, the HVAC kind of system is pretty state of the art. The landlord did a fantastic job with that. So we don't foresee that as being an issue, and we're taking all the necessary precautions to make sure that it's not.
All right, thank you.
Great. Does any other council member have any questions?
Yeah, Mayor, I've got a couple of questions, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Damian.
So, Tony, I've got a question. You mentioned your security, which I was impressed with the security that you have in the 24/7. Now, you mentioned about security guards. How many security guards at one point in time will you be having?
I'll let Andy answer that question.
Yeah, sure, I can take that. So during the day shifts, we have two different aspects to it. We have the same security guard company services both the SOC, the Security Operations Center, and the on-site guards who are dedicated to the facility. So during the day, we have two dedicated security guards to the facility during the two different day shifts. And one at night. And then we also have a 24/7 dedicated body to the SOC as well. We will also have an account manager there for that security company during the day. So the most you'll see at one time for the one facility is 4 and then minimal on 2.
And will these be armed guards or unarmed?
Right now we have spec'd for armed.
For what, I'm sorry?
We have quotes for armed currently is our plan.
And then how many employees do we anticipate that you would be hiring from our community?
We're focusing out, it would look like, well, total employees that we forecast out at full scale is in the distribution center is around 50. Again, we love to do our job fairs and work development programs. The more, the better. We love to hire with locally. So there isn't a set number that we'd say specifically coming from Baldwin Park, but definitely would love to engage with whatever programs that you have, as well as initiate some of our own to hire locally.
And then my last question is, you said you guys would have probably anywhere between 4 to 6 deliveries at one point in time during the day. So you would not be using Stewart at all, correct? You would only be using the Live Oak area?
Correct. And then as you see, Mr. Denny, from the ingress of that component, if I can put it back up, but the ingress egress to this business facility, the park basically is coming through Live Oak, and then we have our own designated private parking with a gate that allows us to do a security check there, and the vans would be coming into our secluded area, and then we have loading dock doors within that area so that those vans can go inside and park, back into the building, so those products will never be exposed to the public.
Got it. And they would be under direction that they would never be going in or out of the Stewart area, right?
No, honestly, we love the location for a litany of different reasons, but one of them is the proximity to the 605 freeway. They will come right in, right out of there from Live Oak. There's no reason whatsoever for us to go anywhere beyond that.
And then my last question is, you mentioned you started paying, I believe you've already paid about over $400,000 in rent, so forth and so on. Now, you mentioned you obtained the lease for this building back in October of 2020.
Correct. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And when did you, so you applied for that lease in October of 2020, and when did you apply for the distribution license?
So we have a very favorable situation with the landlord. We have an option on the, so for us to commit to that lease and the property, we wanted to lock it down as we went through this process. So we have an option on that lease with the landlord. So we are paying month to month on this with the option to get out of the lease if by, knock on wood, but if something should not, if we're not able to obtain the license.
Got it. And so when did you actually apply for the distribution license with the city of Baldwin Park?
I believe it was March.
March of this year.
Correct.
That's all the questions that I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. So I think my only concern is that location is pretty close to the residential area.
Mhm.
So have you guys maybe even thought about going around that area and just trying to figure out how those residents feel, and maybe just trying to get potential buy-in from your residential neighbors?
To be honest, Mayor, we have not. We've been more than happy to do a neighborhood survey.
Okay, just because I know that they're right, I think, over the wall, right? So of course we don't want to do all of this. None of them are aware of it, and then they're gonna eventually find out. So just at least for the sake of transparency with the constituents.
Sure.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
This is for Ben. Ben, what are the setbacks in that location?
The setbacks for distribution in general, that location are 50 feet.
And that location,
It's less. Yeah, for that particular location, it's less to the residential. We don't have the exact footage, but it's about, I think, roughly about half, like 25 feet.
So, but normally it's 50 feet for everybody else. And this particular location is only 25 from residential, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony and team, for being here. A lot of my colleagues have, already expressed a lot of the concerns and questions that I would have asked. One of the big ones, is obviously the traffic flow. You've already addressed that. Same with the potential smell. Given the size of the facility and the proportion of what you actually might be doing in-house seems nominal. Considering the agreement, of making sure that wouldn't be the case, because I think myself and even some of your other colleagues here might be quite aware of the Sriracha debacle that happened a few years back, right? And speaking to what the Mayor Estrada also mentioned of making the neighbors aware of what potentially may happen. I think it's a good thing. But the one thing I would say is, given everything that you guys have talked about, I'm generally in support of, this facility, because in my view is, if anybody else was bringing in or distributing something else that's by right under the state, nobody would have to go through this type of presentation whatsoever with the city. They would be able to sign their lease and go in there and bring in smelly products, whatever that might be. And the city would have very little course of action to deal with them, to some extent, of course. However, that said, given the flexibility and the actual openness that you're trying, and from what I've seen and speaking with your colleagues, and trying to be a good partner, not only for us, the city, but the residents, but also developing that next level of investment of workforce development, providing opportunities for folks to really get into this industry. That's, I understand, the good nature, but I also understand the business side of it, of, them potentially being, one of your customers or somebody on your platform, which is not a problem. Amazon does it. So it's not a bad thing to do. So I certainly do appreciate that. In the sense of the setback, given, what you've talked about, I'm not too concerned with that, particularly for this location. I do see the value of this, not only you and your company, also kind of, being the catalyst for us to kick off this, this industry or this type of industry in our city, and to bring in other folks, not that's something you would like necessarily, but competitors into Baldwin Park to be able to do this type of similar services for the rest of Southern California or San Gabriel Valley, whatever the case may be. And more importantly, I want to be able to, use this as an example to the cannabis industry and to other cities of looking at ways of being, in partnership, a true PPE, right? To illustrate, what can be done when we, when we work collaboratively on the front end together to show, what can be done, right? As Councilmember Damian spoke to, the workforce development, hiring folks, but more importantly, for me, the hiring part is important too, but providing the pathway and the roadmap for others to enter this new industry, specifically an industry or a sector that has criminalized, people of color, in the past, but provide those individuals now an opportunity to be entrepreneurs and to be small business, successful business folks. I see great value in that. And it's one of the things that, really brings me to supporting, this, your company in this facility, because I don't think there are others that would step up in that sense to provide those opportunities. And I will assure you, should you receive the approval from the council, I will be very much on your doorstep. And I think the rest of my colleagues would be making sure that we do provide those workforce development opportunities, the mentoring programs and so forth. And, having those ongoing conversations, through our staff with Mr. Martinez to see, what we're actually doing, what are the KPIs, how many folks are we bringing in from the San Gabriel Valley, not just Baldwin Park, but San Gabriel Valley as a whole. And, we have a college over just on the other side of Pomona that has a very good agricultural college. And you now know some of these, and along with, I think, Mount Sac, are now looking at perhaps curriculums in and around the cannabis industry. So they're now recognizing the potential of what this could be for, a different industry than what people would normally think of, growing apples, growing wine and grapes and so forth. So I'm very much interested in seeing if we could expand on that, and perhaps, providing, call it a center of excellence, here in Baldwin Park, where we can do something like that on a micro level, to be able to have, a small group of cohorts go through something like that, where then we can then showcase, the success of them for accomplishing and starting their business and, growing from there. So with that, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hernandez, if you don't mind me addressing a couple of the comments that you made, and there was a lot of great insightful points that you highlighted here. One, in the odor in cannabis is not a new thing. We have gotten very good at using ion scrubbers and filters. This is something that has been a common concern from a lot of people, from a lot of municipalities. So this is something that the industry in general has gotten very, very good at. And so understanding that this is always going to be a concern from any location, we do have the methods to mitigate that. To your second point about the overall industry, we welcome it. We'd love for the supply chain partners and the brand partners to all be successful. We consider ourselves, and this may be a little bit self-proclaimed, but we're not scared of competition. We are by far the largest direct-to-consumer platform. There really is a couple distant seconds, but we are the only statewide direct-to-consumer platform, and we're really a marketplace. So for us, the stronger the brands and the supply chain partners become and the overall industry gets stronger, that just bodes better for us overall in our long-term vision. And lastly, to your commitment to the community impact, our government affairs and our community impact team is going to love hearing what you have to say. The fact that you come onto our doorstep will make them happier than ever. We have a lot of great ideas of programs that we have run in the past, as well as what we'd love to bring to Baldwin Park. And again, to the same spirit, the stronger the community is around this, the stronger that we are, and it's creating win-wins. It's not lost on anybody over at the East Stack side. We are advocates, understand the history and the disproportionate impact in the war on drugs has had on POC. So as a born, native Los Angelino, I've been in that struggle and in that fight and committed a good portion of my life to such, as well as some of our members on the executive team here at East Stack. So this is like teaching classes, mentorship programs. We love those concepts and those programs, and will be the first to not only help develop them with the City of Baldwin Park, but be an active participant as such.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Tony, thank you for addressing the concerns about any odors. And I do recognize that this is a new building. And so, I can understand what you're saying about having a more modern HVAC system, plus the mitigation that you, I'm sure, install, like you said, the scrubbers and everything that you go through. And as long as that can be addressed, which it sounds like it can be, like I said, you have my support. Every property that we look at for cannabis is going to have its pros and cons. And in this case, your site is, like I said, off of a major thoroughfare, Live Oak, Arrow Highway, proximity to the freeway. There shouldn't be any direct impact as far as vehicle circulation to the neighborhood, the residential neighborhoods. And I like that, because there are some properties that met the criteria, but they may be a little bit closer inside our community, and so we're going to feel their impact more. So I just want to share that, because every property that we look at is going to have its pros and cons, and there are a lot of good things about this site. It's a new building too, and I like that. It's also next to waste management, so it's already kind of an industrial area, light industrial, that lends itself. And so, we do need to look at that. And as it is, one of the challenges that operators brought to us early on in this process is the ability to find a site. And it's already restricted. We restricted it because we didn't want the major impacts to our community. We want the benefits of the industry, but of course we don't want the negative impacts, right? So we restricted where these operators could be cited and where their companies could be approved and permitted. And so that limits us. And so I can appreciate that you were proactive in trying to secure a site while you try to get the approvals from the city. And that's really no different than what other operators were doing early on in the process, because they wanted to, participate. And without a site, you can't participate, really. You can't seek a city permit if you don't have a site, in other words. But all that just to say that, I'm looking at it from a land use perspective. I'm looking at it from a planning perspective, community development. I like the workforce development opportunities. I like the security. You guys have been very thoughtful. I like that you come to the city with a lot of experience. We stand to gain a good amount of revenues from this operation. The site is strong in so many ways. And as long as that odor can be mitigated, like I said, you'll have my support.
So, Ben, how many operators do we currently have?
We have currently 15, Mayor.
And I think all of them are following that 60-foot setback, right?
Correct. We have, I would say, yeah, approximately 15. Vast majority follow the 50-foot setback. We do have one operator that's brand new, the 6 VLAN, the distinct indulgence. They have a lesser a setback that was approved for their particular use.
Great.
But besides that, vast majority follow the setback.
Thank you. So my biggest concern is that we've forced 15 operators to follow that setback. And now we are going to, make certain amendments or special arrangements for one distributor. And so if you've been following what's been going on in the news and around the city, you know that there is a lot of commotion going on. And so making some sort of special amendment at this point would look really bad on our part. I think it's been kind of an open document to be able to see the requirements for such a facility. That's my biggest concern, and I just kind of have to air that out there. I think that's one of the biggest concerns for certain members of this council, and I think that's something that has to be deliberated and really thoroughly discussed.
Mr. Mayor,
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor,
We can go Councilmember Damian and then Councilmember Hernandez.
absolutely.
I thank you, Mayor. And so I absolutely agree with Councilmember Garcia with a lot of the things that she mentioned. I'm impressed with the facility. I'm impressed with the experience that you guys have. I have nothing against, you guys coming into the city. My concern is, again, the residential, how close you are. I mean, literally you have a neighbor who's a resident there. So, I think that right now you're about 23 feet away from the residents when we should be at 50 feet. I live right down the street from there, right behind Waste Management. And one of my concerns as a resident in that area is, number one, like Councilmember Garcia mentioned, the odor, right? Are we going to be able to mitigate the odor? Number two, if we do make this exception now, are we going to have to go and do these other exceptions for anybody else that wants to come into the city? I also have a concern that we just literally started accepting distribution licenses because we had one exclusive distributor in the city, and we just literally got rid of that exclusivity. And you guys obtained this building in October of 2020, and yet applied for this particular permit last month in March. That concerns me as well. So I would really love to support this project, but I would really like for you guys to go out and do your community outreach and reach out to all of the surrounding neighbors in there and get feedback as to what it is that they feel coming there. Because if we are going to have to do some type of code amendment, then we need to make sure that we get the input from all of those residents in that area that are going to be impacted by whatever impact they may feel. We need to get their feedback before I can even say, yes, let's move forward with this project. So I would encourage, like the mayor said, do community outreach, get out there and reach out to all of us residents that live in that area. And let's get, information and feedback from the residents and see how they feel about this type of facility coming in. That would allow for me to make my decision. But right now, it's really hard for me to support it under these conditions, even though I love the facility. I love the company. Everything seems great about it, but I do have my concerns at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, and then I believe Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. And just for full transparency, as you mentioned earlier in your comments, the difference between the distribution, what we're talking about today, and the 15 that you mentioned is they do manufacturing, packaging, and they grow. That is a distinctive difference, and we need to make sure that we're honest, when we're talking to the community about that, and because there are differences. I've been to several of the facilities here in Baldwin Park and other locations, and there is a distinctive you could smell versus someone who does distribution only. And I've been to those facilities, so I just think we have to just make just for true transparency, when we talk about the numbers, the setbacks and everything else, there is a difference between manufacturing, growing, versus strictly a place that's just distributing and housing product. And that's what we're talking about today. I value all the concerns and the recommendations that both you and Councilmember Damian have suggested. And I look forward to seeing what we discuss further ourselves, but also the work that Mr. Kim will do, given some of the guidance that we've provided tonight.
Yeah, and
Mayor?
yeah, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was a very nice presentation, very nice facility, very well organized, very business oriented. I'm listening to everybody, and I agree, maybe we should continue having conversations to see where we're at in this as a council. We need to address the concerns of the community. Community outreach is very important for sure. So I recommend you do that, see what the community has to say. But did I hear that, Sean, you are going to be partnering with them, and aren't you a grower? So you would be growing there, correct?
No, I am a member of Cultivate Group, which is a licensed manufacturer in the facility, but that is not at that location, and there would not be any of that use at the facility.
So you will not be growing at that facility?
No, not at
Okay,
all.
so I misunderstood. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. But again, great presentation, but I do want to discuss this further and get to listen to our residents. As Council Member Damian said, he also lives in the area. So I would like to hear what they have to say, since the setbacks are half of what is required. And it is a different facility, you're right, Mr. Hernandez, but I would like to hear what our residents have to say about the facility being so close to them. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and so my concern is not the type of facility that it is. My concern is that there is more value in this facility than there would be in a growing house, right? So I would assume, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but a pound of finished product, edibles, vapes, cartridges, whatever it may be, is much more valuable than a pound of plant, right? Because it's already finished. There's more density in there. There's more product in there. It's easier probably to, it's going to be a more attractive product. So we want to make sure that, of course, we're not endangering any of our constituents. I want to make sure that we have buy-in from that area, from those residents. I also want to make sure that our chief and our police department are involved in that process so that they feel safe, right? So at the end of the day, if something were to happen, of course we don't want that to, but if something were to happen, it's going to be our police that are going to be responding to that, and they need to feel comfortable with the situation. So, I am a big supporter. I fully support opening up our distribution and looking into delivery. I agree with you on the equity part. Cannabis has hurt families that look like you and me, families that live in this area, this community, and this city, and all of the valley. And so, now that we have an ability to legalize it and make revenue off of it, we should be looking at how this is going to benefit our community, right? What resources we can bring in, what programs we can bring in besides jobs, what recreational activities we can bring for the youth, so that working class families no longer have socioeconomic barriers to living a better life and gaining better skills, right? And so I agree on all of you. I agree with all of you on all of that, but I just want to make sure that we are able to really stand by our decision when we make this decision. So, I'm all for it. I just want you to do your due diligence and, of course, make sure that our staff is involved. And as I said, our chief and our police departments, that they feel comfortable, when they have to make a response to this call.
Sure. And if I may address 2 points that you just brought up there, from a security standpoint, this is going to be our centralized distribution center. So yes, the value of the product that's inside this facility is obviously very valuable to us, not only from the cost of it, but just from the entire network. So our intent with this, and it is of our utmost importance that this is Fort Knox for us, the security, what we're willing to commit, or going to commit to making sure that this is as secure of a facility as possible, coupled with the BCC compliance components to this. Not only will the facility itself be have a very comprehensive security system, but once you get inside as well, all product gets locked into DEA cages. so that there's this extra added component. They will have their issues getting into this facility, and even if they did, they will have another layer of having to actually try to get some product out. The second point that I wanted to address is on the community survey. Is there a neighborhood council, or what would be the traditional methodology of doing the neighborhood survey?
So there is no neighborhood council, so I think you might just have to reach out to the area. I don't know, Shannon, do you have any ideas on how that can be accomplished?
Yeah, Ben can comment this on a little bit more, but he has helped developers. They can send out mailers. We can help them host a town hall meeting. We can send out postcards. There's various options that we have available.
I would just add direct contact, walking the neighborhood and knocking on doors, but all the above.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Damian.
I think that maybe like a virtual kind of like a town hall or something would be great. That way you can actually get people who would be willing to ask questions and give feedback. Now, I understand, Mr. Kim, that you guys are already paying, and I take that into consideration. So, Ben, if we can move on this as soon as possible, that way we can get that community outreach out there ASAP, and maybe hopefully we can. I know I'm probably pushing it, but maybe hopefully we can bring it back at the next council meeting 2 weeks from today. I don't know, Ben, Shannon, if that's doable with the timeline, but just a sense of urgency, because I understand that they're paying month to month. That way we get the community feedback as soon as possible. And then that way we can go ahead and proceed to make the decision, because I would hate to, I also put myself in their situation, and I would hate to prolong it for them longer. So let's just kind of get all of our ducks in a row and bring back all that feedback. Let's get that community outreach as soon as possible. That way we can bring it back as soon as we can.
I think that's definitely possible. We would ask the operator to do the legwork, the mailings and that type of thing. And, we could host it at one of our facilities. I guess it's going to be virtual, but we could host it through Zoom and provide that information.
Great. And then I believe you've already hit your first neighbor right here, right? Councilmember Damian.
What? I'm sorry?
I said they've already hit their first neighbor, you, right?
Yeah, I was the first resident to give feedback. So
one down, like maybe 50 to go. So you're good. You're on a good start.
We're hoping to have your support there.
Of course. So, as long as the process is transparent, as long as we, let the community know what's going on and buy-in, of course, it's just a matter of being, informative and really getting that community buy-in from that area.
Sure.
Yeah, if I may, I look forward to meeting a few more of the neighbors. So that's something we can get on really quickly.
Good.
Yeah, with Sean here, we have 2 down.
There you go, 2. And the weather is in your favor right now, so you're good. Take advantage of it.
Definitely.
Good. Okay, so council members, any more questions or concerns? No? So I believe at this point, we're going to move on. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being informative. Thank you for the discussion. I think council really appreciates that. And of course, we'll continue discussions and go on from there.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, thank you. So I believe at this point, we will move on to closed session. So I will see the rest of the council in the next Zoom meeting.